Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Mr. Tie-Dye. I'm here today to do another tie-dye t-shirt for y'all to try to spread a little bit of joy across the world. So today we're going to be doing the sunset. What I'm going to do to start with on this is I have a t-shirt that's been soaked in soda ash. It's been spun out so it's barely damp. And I've also centered the tee so I have the front and the back separate. I did that by tucking one sleeve into the other and lining things up. I do have a video on centering or folding the tee in half. I will put that in the description box down below. So we're going to fold this on the front and the back of the t-shirt. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to draw the horizon line on first. This here is where the ocean is going to be. Okay, then the next thing is we're going to draw the sun. I'm going to use a different color for the sun. And the way I like to draw circles or half circles or quarter circles in this case is by tying a slip knot and a string and then using a washable marker. And then what I do is put the string down where I want the center of the circle to be, and then I can kind of let out more string until I get it. So I already made a mark where I want my sun, the top of the sun, to be. So the middle of the sun is going to be setting halfway down into the ocean here, basically. So we're just going to draw this quarter circle. So it's going to be a big sunset. So there's the two lines we're going to work with here. So what I'm going to do to start with, let me get my string figured out here. Okay, so to start with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold across the horizon line, and then I'll tie it off, and I'm going to leave it tied, but I'm going to tie it like right here so that I can then fold this one up and tie it into the same fold. And I'll show you that here in a minute. But the other thing that we need to do is draw these lines on the back side. So what I'm going to do is just make a little mark here so I know where to draw my horizon line. This is going to assist us in the dyeing later on. So we want to draw these on the front and the back. So I'm just drawing a marker for these same lines here on the back side of the t-shirt. And then I can lay my straight edge down here, draw the same line. Guess I should have left that slip knot in there. Okay, so once again I'm just going to pinch this string at the horizon line. That's the center of my sun. And then I'm just going to bring it all the way up to where this line is on the shirt, so I can draw that same line on the front and the back. So we'll flip this shirt back over. And now what I'm going to do is fold, just do an accordion fold all the way across the t-shirt. And I made sure that as I did these folds, this one here is just a little bit taller, but I wanted to make sure that I could see my sun line right there. So I put that line that I drew on top of the fold. So if you have to fold one of the ones taller or shorter as you're going, go ahead and do that. That way you can see where your sun line is up on the top. And that'll make sense because that's where I'm going to tie this off at. So I'm going to wrap this around kite string a couple times. And then I'm going to tie it right there where my sun line is. Okay, so now I'm going to fold the sun down to the horizon line. So I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to do little accordion folds. I'm just lining them up on the top here. And then as you get closer, see me a little bit, as you get closer down here to the horizon line, these folds are going to be a little bit more difficult to get in there. You'll just have to kind of open those up, open this crack up here, and then just scrunch that all the way up in there. Can't fold it all the way up to the line, but then I do have this line already tied, which then makes it easier for me to just include this right in this original tie. And I'm going to loop it up around the sun over here, and then I'm going to loop it under and come back up the other side. So this here is just going to tie that off and give it some support both directions here. And then I can tie that off in the same place. Okay, and I'm going to leave that tied. The other thing I want to put on here is just a little bit of reflection lines. So I should have drawn this on before I actually folded this all the way up, but I can see that my sun line ends right there, so my reflection is going to be about maybe 3/4 of that. So I'm just going to kind of draw just a little bit of a line on to come down into the ocean here. So this here part is going to be the reflection of the sunlight in the ocean here. So I still have this one tied off up here, so I'm going to fold this reflection up. And you can make this reflection kind of crooked or wavy, however big or small you want to make it. This is just how I like to do the sun. Have a little bit of a reflection there. So I'm going to tie this underneath here. And sometimes just locking it, 2 different ways of wrapping it in there kind of helps lock that in and give it support as you're picking it up, moving it around. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is fold. I'm not going to do nice, straight, even pleats going up like I would if I was doing a DNA type fold, but I'm going to kind of loosely fold these up because when I dye this, the wrinkliness of the accordion folds is going to give me more of those ocean waves that I want to incorporate into my sunset. So just kind of do kind of a half scrunch, half pleat type thing here, just to get that all gathered up. And then you can, once again, I've left that tied with a plenty long tail so that I can just wrap everything up and tie it together. But if you want to cut your string and start over with tying, that's fine too. This is just how I like to do it. Sometimes it saves some time. And then I like to also make sure that I have the reflection tied up so it's not touching the sun right here. So I have plenty enough of a gap in here. So just by tying that up a little bit, that kind of pulls that down away. But I can still see my reflection line, I can see my sun line, and the horizon line. So that's the main thing, is just making sure that everything is separated here. And I'm going to set this down, and then I'm going to just do a scrunch for the top part of the t-shirt here. So this here will be all the night sky then of the sunset. I like to try to tuck this tag down out of the way. Sometimes if you have a tag sticking out and you hit it with dye, then the dye splashes around in places you don't want it. Same thing happens with rubber bands sometimes. That's another reason I like the kite string, is the dye doesn't splash off of it, although sometimes the dye will travel just a little bit along the lines. So each thing has its own drawback, but I think it is more beneficial for me to use the kite string. I feel like it holds things together better, and I feel like I can wrap things up nicer this way. Okay, there's the sunset fold. I'm going to adjust some of these creases here. I use my cuticle pusher on my scrunches sometimes, and that just helps me kind of tuck some of the bigger folds down inside. So I'm going to make some adjustments on this, and then it's ready for dye. So like I say, once again, we have our sun line here, horizon, and reflection. Oh, and the other thing to make sure of is that they're on the back side also. So I can see that my sun line is mostly visible here. I'm just going to draw some extra line in, just to make sure that when I'm dyeing the opposite side, I know just where to put things, put the colors. So the other one is getting the reflection line in here. So if you kind of make some marks from the front side over to the back, I know it's going 3/4 of the way up here, and on the bottom side I drew this line up, so now I can draw that same line in on the front and the back side of the t-shirt. So that's ready for dye, so I'll be back with some gloves and we'll get some dye put on this thing. Okay, we're back to put some color on this thing. So the other thing I did, besides poking all these folds down inside, was I drew some lines. This here is my reflection, and I want to have different colors in the reflection. So because with waves and stuff you're going to have blue, so I'm going to color these blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue. And like I say, this here is the sun, the area around it. So we're going to start out by dyeing the sun. So I'm just going to go right along the line there. And this is, of course, the horizon line where it dips into the ocean. So we're just going to dye the whole sun with a lemon yellow. So this here is the brightest yellow that I have. And then we're going to dye around that with an orangey color. So I just added some yellow to this orange just to... Okay, I had to dump some memory off. My card filled up. So anyway, so yes, I added some yellow to my orange, or maybe I added orange to some yellow. Anyways, it's mixed about half and half, which just lightens that orange up some. It'll give me some nice color around the sunset here. So with the sunsets, you can just kind of play around with layering your colors however you like to do it. Whatever colors you choose. I mean, you look at sunsets and there's all kinds of colors in the sky, and they're different everywhere you go. So anyways, down here on the ocean part, I'm going to put just a little bit of fuchsia just to give me a little bit of a separation between this orange from the sunset and the blue of the ocean. So this here will just go into a little bit of purple, which that'll be just fine. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. So I might as well, yeah, I'll just go all the way across with the sunset here. And that way I can put some blue right in here without trying to get too much green. So, and I'm going to put some blue in here and blue down here. So, and then we're going to put some yellow down here. So I am going to get just a little bit of green in this reflection here, but I just like to have just a little bit of reflection down in the water, and that's what this is going to give me here. So, and I can put a little bit of, nah, we'll just leave it just like that. Okay, but we will surround our reflection just a little bit with the fuchsia. Like I say, this here is just my personal choice of laying colors on here. There is going to be some blending and mixing of colors, so I just try to minimize that by laying some border colors in there. And then we're going to turn the ocean blue. And I'm just leaving just a little bit of a white gap, let that kind of spread up into the fuchsia, and that will go into a purple then. Dye all the rest of this in the turquoise. Dark blue over top of the ocean, which will just give me a little bit more color there in the ocean waves. Like I say, I'm using dark blue here, but you could use purple, you could use black, navy blue, just any kind of a darker color on there. And then with my sky here, I'm going to add some fuchsia in around these orange beams of light coming up, just to give me a little bit of separation, because I'm going to go into some purples and black then for more of the sky. So I'm going to cover up some of this fuchsia here. So I'm just kind of spreading the fuchsia around. Like I say, I like to layer colors, so that's kind of what I'm doing up here. And then I can lay this purple down without it mixing directly with my orange. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's put a little bit of black over top of that purple, a little bit down into the fuchsia, just to darken that up some. We're going to put some over the ocean. Okay, I can see some white areas, so I'm just going to add in some more of my orangey color here. Draw this up into the sky. And let's put some of this darker blue down over top of this turquoise we put down here. And that'll help with this green that I have down in here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of black over top also. But having just a little bit of yellow down here just gives me some reflection, which is what I was kind of going for. This is how I find it best to fill these little bottles. If you just stick this nozzle down inside, create an airtight seal, and you squeeze this air up into the bottle, then you can squeeze the dye down in there without it splashing. I do have a quick little video on filling these bottles, which is basically what I just did there. But anyway, and these bottles here with these little fine tips on the top here, those are nice. I'll put a link to these bottles down in the description. I found these on Amazon. So like I say, I'm going to put just a little bit of that over top of the blue here and over top of some of that green, just to give me a little bit more texture down here in the ocean. Okay, so there is the top. I'm going to flip this over and dye the back basically the same. Okay, there's my sunset tea. So I'm going to let this batch for 48 hours and then I'll have the results for you in just a couple seconds.